Across the vast savannas of northern Tanzania, the Hadzabe still maintain a hunter-gatherer way of life that has changed very little from that of their ancestors tens of thousands of years ago. Each day begins with a journey into the wild in search of food. Yet what has helped this small community survive through countless generations is not only their hunting skills or their ability to recognize edible plants in the forest. More importantly, it is the way they share everything they have with those around them. Today, we will follow the Hadzabe and discover how this tribe continues to preserve an ancient way of life in the heart of the wild. In the harsh lands of Africa, the Hadzabe survive through strong unity and a deep spirit of sharing. Before the sun rises high, the men begin preparing for the hunt. They check their bows, adjust the strings, and inspect handmade arrows crafted from hardwood with small metal tips. Every movement carries knowledge passed down through generations. When hunting large animals, the arrowheads are often coated with a small amount of poison taken from native plants or insects. This poison does not bring the animal down immediately. Instead, it weakens the prey slowly over time, allowing the hunters to calmly follow its tracks rather than risk a dangerous face-to-face confrontation. Once everything is ready, the group quietly leave the camp and disappears into thorny bushes. Another day of survival begins. Before long, they spot the first signs on the ground. Fresh tracks are clearly marked in the soft soil, alongside patches of earth that have just been dug up. The Hadzabe immediately slowed down, bending close to study every small detail before moving forward. The distance between them and the animal grows shorter. Behind the low thorn bushes, a wild boar is quietly searching for food. The hunters quickly spread out, silently narrowing its escape routes. No one speaks. Every movement is guided by eye contact and familiar hand gestures. One hunter slowly draws his bow, holds still for a few seconds, and releases the arrow. Struck by the shot, the wild boar instantly charges through the dry grass. The Hadzabe understand that a wounded animal is often more dangerous than a healthy one. So instead of rushing after it, they calmly study the deep tracks in the dirt and the broken branches along its path. After following the trail for some distance, the poison on the arrow begins to take effect. The animal gradually weakens, then finally collapses in the grassland. The first hunt of the day has succeeded. Instead of carrying the whole animal back to camp, the Hadzabe usually process it on the spot. The internal organs are removed, and the meat is cut into pieces small enough to carry easily. Nearby, a small fire is quickly started. Some of the meat is placed directly over the hot coals to roast, while the rest is prepared for cooking in a pot. What makes this moment special is that the first pieces of meat do not belong only to the hunter who hit the target. Everyone sits together, shares the food, and eats right where the hunt has ended. For the Hadzabe, success is never the achievement of one person alone. The tracker, the watcher, the helper, and the archer all contribute to the shared meal. That is why food is shared from the very first bite. Leaving the hunting area, the group continues deeper into forest to search for another food source the Hadzabe deeply value. In front of a large ancient tree, they stop and inspect the hollow inside the trunk. One hunter lights a bundle of dry grass and gently directs the smoke into the opening to calm the bees. After patiently waiting, he slowly reaches inside and pulls out golden honeycombs dripping with fresh honey. The honey is carefully collected in the small bucket they brought along. For the Hadzabe, honey is a valuable source of energy, helping them quickly recover after hours of walking under the sun. But just like the meat they hunt, the honey does not belong only to the person who found it. When they return to camp, it will be shared with relatives, children, and the entire community.
Between the arid lands surrounding Lake Eyasi in Tanzania, the Hadza people continue to preserve a way of life that has endured for tens of thousands of years. They are among the very few remaining hunter-gatherer communities in the world, where nature is both the source of survival and the greatest teacher. Rather than accumulating wealth or trying to conquer the natural world, they spend each day learning to adapt to whatever this land provides. Every hunt begins in an atmosphere of almost complete silence. The hunters crouch low, their footsteps barely disturbing the grass as they study even the faintest signs. Today, their target is a swift and highly alert wildcat. When an arrow leaves the bough and strikes the animal, it does not collapse immediately, but disappears into the thick brush. For the Hadza, this is exactly what they expect. Their arrows are often coated with poison derived from native plants, a toxin that does not kill the prey instantly, but gradually weakens it, allowing the hunters to patiently follow its trail. Nature is not generous every day. When larger game cannot be found, they readily turn to hunting birds or smaller animals instead. Although these catches provide only modest amounts of meat, every opportunity helps supply the energy they need to survive. Rather than placing all their hopes on a single hunt, the Hadzabe reduce risk by pursuing multiple smaller targets. It is this strategy that helps ensure their survival in an ever-changing environment.
He's filling in.
Some days are even more demanding, especially when the target is a large monitor lizard living near a water source or hidden deep inside hollow trees. These powerful reptiles can fight back fiercely, so the hunters always keep a safe distance, observe carefully, and approach only when they are certain the animal can no longer defend itself. To them, hunting is not a race of speed, but a lesson in patience and self-control. While the men make their way through the forest, the women at camp quietly carry out responsibilities that are no less important. They dig for edible roots, gather wild fruits, prepare food, and care for the children. These daily routines form the stable foundation of the entire community. The children grow up surrounded by nature, watching the adults every day and learning survival skills as a natural part of life rather than through formal lessons. One of the most memorable hunts is the pursuit of a kudu antelope. The lead hunter kneels beside a fresh footprint, carefully examines it, then picks up a piece of fresh dung to determine how recently the animal passed by. Every footprint, every blade of flattened grass, and even a tiny drop of blood becomes a valuable clue. When the final arrow strikes its target, the antelope still charges forward with astonishing speed. The chase continues until the exhausted animal finally comes to a stop in the open savanna. Only then do the hunters move in to complete the hunt safely. On their way back, one of the hunters suddenly discovers a wild beehive hidden inside the trunk of a large tree. With just a few skillful swings of an axe, golden sheets of beeswax and streams of glistening honey are revealed. The honey is shared immediately, providing a precious source of energy after the long journey. When the antelope is brought back to camp, the entire community quickly gathers together. Without anyone giving instructions, everyone knows exactly what to do. The meat is divided into portions, then roasted over the fire or cooked into a simple soup. Everyone sits together in a circle, passing food from one person to another and sharing a meal. Songs, rhythmic clapping, and ancient stories fill the air around the fire, preserving the community's collective memory from one generation to the next. The Hadzabe's way of life is not the result of never having encountered the modern world, but of choosing to preserve the values that have sustained their ancestors for thousands of years. They take only what they truly need from nature, share generously within the community, and avoid unnecessary accumulation. In a world that is constantly chasing more, faster, and bigger, the The Hadzabe of life invites us to reflect on a profound question. Perhaps happiness is found not in possessing more, but in living in harmony with nature and appreciating the things that matter most.
Ay, nanasota man ako sa mga nakukulot sutito yung hindi na po.
I spent a few days living with the Hadzabe people near Lake Eyasi in northern Tanzania. There was no fixed travel schedule here, and no clear plan for what each day would bring. Everything moved according to the natural rhythm of life. As the sun began to rise above the horizon, a few men quietly stood up, carrying bows, arrows, small knives, and long wooden sticks sharpened at the tips. No one told me where we were going, what we would hunt, or when we would return. They simply walked into the forest, and I followed behind. On this dry land, the forest is not a place for adventure or exploration, as many outsiders might imagine. For the Hadzabe, the forest is life itself. It gives them food, water, energy, and the knowledge they need to survive. Every footprint, every broken branch, every small sound in the bushes can carry a meaning. They do not need maps or modern equipment, because the experience passed down through generations has taught them to read nature as if it were part of their own bodies. As we moved through an area of low bushes mixed with tall trees, one of the men suddenly signaled for everyone to stop. He raised his head, studied the canopy ahead, then quietly pointed toward a patch of thick brush in the distance. At first, I saw nothing unusual, but a few seconds later, several small shadows began to appear between the branches. It was a troop of monkeys moving quickly from tree to tree, one after another, almost blending into the colors of the leaves and dry trunks. No one rushed. The men lowered their bodies, kept their distance, and exchanged quick glances along with soft clicking sounds in their language. They were not aiming at the whole troop, but patiently watching for one monkey that moved slower and separated from the group for a brief moment. Every movement was calm, precise, and almost wordless. The hunters slowly raised their bows, their eyes fixed on the treetops. An arrow shot forward, cutting through the quiet morning air. The monkey panicked and tried to cling to the branch, but after only a few seconds, it fell onto the dry leaves below. The men moved toward it immediately, but remained careful until they were sure everything was over. There was no cheering, no excessive excitement, and no sense of victory as if this were a hunt performed for show. To them, this was not a trophy to boast about. It was simply food the forest had given them that day. After walking a little farther, we stopped in a small clearing and prepared the monkey right there in the forest. They built a small fire from dry branches, then quickly cleaned the animal with the knife they had brought. Some pieces of meat were placed directly on the hot coals. Before long, the smell of roasted meat began to spread through the air. When it was cooked, they cut it into smaller pieces and shared it together. The meat was divided evenly among everyone. No one ate first, and no one kept the best piece of themselves. Here, a meal is not only a way to fill the stomach, but also a way to strengthen the community. Everything taken from a forest is shared, because one person's survival is always connected to the survival of the whole group. As I watched them gather around the fire, I realized that what makes the Hadzabe so remarkable is not only that they still hunt and gather as their ancestors did thousands of years ago. What matters even more is the way they live in harmony with the world around them. They do not store too much food, carry many possessions, or try to control nature the way modern people often do. Instead, they rely on a deep understanding of the forest, knowing when to take, when to stop, and when to let life continue growing. The forest feeds them, and by respecting it, they help keep that source of life alive.
Dawn gradually spread across the vast savanna and sparse woodland with the gentle light of a new day. A herd of antelope slowly moved across the open grasslands in search of food, constantly lifting their heads to watch their surroundings before moving forward. From time to time, the herd paused briefly before continuing in small groups through the quiet landscape. At the nearby camp, the indigenous tribe also woke early to prepare for the day's hunt. Everyone checked their bows, arrows, knives, and ropes, making sure all the equipment was ready for the journey ahead. After completing every preparation, the group quietly left the camp and headed into the savannah, beginning another hunting expedition across the vast wilderness. The indigenous group crossed wide grasslands and sparse forests, carefully observing every animal track on the ground as they traveled. Upon reaching a small water source, they stopped briefly to rest, taking turns drinking water and washing their faces before continuing their journey. After a short break, they ventured deeper into the savannah. Not long afterward, from a considerable distance, they spotted a lion silently stalking a herd of antelope grazing across the grassland. Moments later, the lion suddenly charged, causing the entire herd to scatter in every direction. After a brief chase, it brought down one antelope and began feeding, while the indigenous hunters quietly watched the entire scene from a safe distance. After the lion successfully made its kill, it remained on the grassland, feeding on its prey. Taking advantage of the lion's complete focus on its meal, the indigenous hunters silently split into several directions, using the tall grass as cover to reduce the distance. Once they were close enough, one hunter quickly drew his bow and fired the first arrow. Startled by the sudden attack, the lion immediately sprang to its feet and sprinted across the savannah in search of an escape route. The hunters pursued while continuously firing additional arrows. After being struck several times, the lion gradually weakened, collapsed in the open grassland, and was finally subdued. After subduing the lion, the indigenous group continued following the direction in which the antelope herd had fled earlier. By tracking the footprints left in the soil and the disturbed patches of grass, they soon located the herd moving across another open stretch of savanna. One adult antelope gradually became separated from the herd while crossing an area with fewer trees. Taking advantage of the surrounding bushes, the hunters quietly approached from several directions. Once they were close enough, a well-aimed arrow was released toward the target. The antelope fled, but was struck by several more arrows, gradually lost its strength, collapsed, and was quickly secured by the group. After completing the hunt, the indigenous hunters prepared to carry the antelope back to camp. The animal was securely tied with ropes to make transportation easier over the long journey. The group took turns carrying the antelope along familiar trails that crossed grasslands, rocky areas, and sparse forests. Throughout the trip, everyone remained alert, constantly watching the surroundings to ensure their safety and avoid any predators that might suddenly appear. After traveling for some time, the tribe's huts gradually came into view. The hunters quickly brought the antelope back to camp, where preparation for the evening meal began. Back at the camp, the tribe began butchering the antelope they had hunted. The meat was cut into several portions, with some placed into clay pots to cook with water, while the remaining pieces were skewered onto wooden sticks and roasted over the fire. Everyone took turns adding firewood, adjusting the hot coals, and turning the meat until it was evenly cooked. The aroma of the roasting meat soon spread throughout the camp. Once the meal was ready, the tribe gathered together to enjoy the reward of a long day of hunting. After eating, they carried the remaining meat and bones to the hunting dogs so they too could share in the success of the day's hunt. Life across the vast wilderness gradually settled into peace once again, bringing another day of work, hunting, and tribal life to a close.
Dawn gradually spread across the savanna and sparse woodland, bringing the cool air of a new day. A herd of wild boars left their resting place and slowly moved across the grasslands and low bushes in search of food, constantly using their snouts to dig through the soft soil for roots, tubers, and small creatures beneath the ground. Back at the camp, the tribal hunters also woke early to prepare for the day's hunt. They carefully checked their bows, arrows, knives, and ropes to ensure every tool was ready for the journey ahead. After completing their preparations, the entire group quietly left the camp and headed into the vast savanna to begin another day of hunting in the wilderness. The tribal hunters crossed wide grasslands and sparse woodland while carefully examining every animal track left in the soil. Before long, they discovered fresh footprints along with patches of recently disturbed earth. Following these signs, they soon found a herd of wild boars foraging beneath low bushes. The boars constantly rooted through the ground, moved in small groups, and repeatedly looked around their surroundings. The hunters stopped at a safe distance, silently observing the herd's movements and studying the terrain. After identifying a favorable position, they split into several groups and quietly prepared to approach their targets. One adult wild boar gradually became separated from the herd while busily digging for food near an open patch of ground. Using tall grass and small trees as cover, the tribal hunters silently closed the distance without making any noise. When the boar reached a favorable position, one hunter quickly drew his bow and fired the first arrow. Wounded, the wild boar immediately sprinted across the grassland and thick bushes at remarkable speed. The hunters relentlessly pursued it while repeatedly firing more arrows at the fleeing animal. After being struck by several arrows, the boar gradually weakened, slowed down, and finally collapsed. The hunters quickly approached and secured their prey.
Ya ko ateng eta. Salia. Sumo uni ya ko ana sumo beto wa manando.
While the men continued hunting across the savannah, the women left the camp carrying their familiar digging tools to search for wild tubers. They walked across patches of soft soil and gradually unearthed many tubers buried deep beneath the ground. After gathering enough, they headed back to the camp. Along the way, they also collected dry branches and small pieces of firewood to use as fuel. Upon returning, several women immediately lit the fire, cleaned the dirt from the tubers, and placed them in the hot embers to roast. While waiting for the tubers to finish roasting, the others walked to a nearby water source and filled their gourds before carrying them back to the camp. Once the roasted tubers were ready, everyone enjoyed a small portion to satisfy their hunger while continuing to wait for the hunting party to return. Before long, the hunters emerged from the savannah carrying the wild boar they had successfully captured. The animal was securely tied with ropes and carried in turns across the grasslands, rocky outcrops, and sparse woodland along familiar trails. Throughout the journey back, everyone remained alert for dangerous predators. Upon reaching the camp, the wild boar was placed in the food preparation area, ready for the tribe's meal. Back at the camp, the tribe began preparing the freshly hunted wild boar. The meat was divided into several portions, with some placed into clay pots to cook with water while the rest was skewered on wooden sticks and roasted over the fire. Everyone took turns adding firewood, adjusting the glowing coals, and turning the meat until it became evenly browned. Once the meal was ready, the tribe gathered together to enjoy the freshly cooked wild boar along with the roasted wild tubers prepared earlier. As they ate, they talked about the day's hunt and shared valuable experience for future expeditions. The savanna gradually returned to its peaceful rhythm, bringing another day of hunting and tribal life in the vast wilderness to a close.
As dawn broke over the northern Tanzanian savanna, the first rays of sunlight spread across the dry grasses and the low trees surrounding the Hadzabe camp. The morning air was still chilly, but quiet movements had already begun throughout the camp. A group of hunters started preparing their bows and arrows, small knives, and several long sticks that had been carefully selected the night before. Today, they were not searching for familiar prey, such as birds or small game. Fresh tracks discovered near a foraging area suggested that a large python was hiding not far from the camp. To the Hadzabe, a python is never an animal to be taken lightly. It has no venom and does not charge like many predators. But the strength of its long, muscular body is enough to make even the most experienced hunter proceed with caution. After leaving the camp, the hunting party moved deep into the tall grass. The lead hunter crouched low, carefully studying every drag mark across the soil, every patch of flattened grass, and every small broken branch scattered along the ground. To an outsider, these signs would have been easy to overlook. But to the Hadzabe, they were the language of nature. A faint trail across the sand, a disturbed layer of dry leaves, or even dust clinging to the trunk of a tree could reveal that the python had passed through only a short time before. As they drew closer to the dense vegetation, the group became even quieter. They no longer walked in a single line, but spread out in a wide arc, keeping a safe distance from one another to observe the surroundings more effectively. No one spoke aloud. They communicated only through hand signals, eye contact, and the slightest movements. Every decision was made with complete focus. The final trail led them to a shaded area beneath a cluster of low bushes. The ground there was cooler, covered with thick layers of dry leaves, and marked by several gaps wide enough for a large python to conceal itself. One hunter gently pushed the grass aside with the tip of his stick. Instantly, the group spotted the python's coiled body beneath the shade, almost perfectly blending into the earth and the fallen leaves. No one rushed forward. They knew the most dangerous part was its head, and unless it was controlled properly, the snake could react with remarkable speed. The oldest hunter signaled for everyone to step back half a pace. One man positioned a long stick in front of the python, while another prepared a sturdy vine that had already been tightly twisted into a strong rope. They moved slowly, careful not to corner the python too aggressively and risk provoking it. As the snake began to glide out from the bushes, the hunter holding the stick immediately redirected its attention to one side. At the same moment, another hunter quietly approached from behind, maintaining a safe distance while waiting for the right opportunity. The decisive moment unfolded in just seconds, yet every movement remained carefully controlled. As the python's head was gently pinned toward the ground with a long stick, the others immediately worked together to secure different sections of its powerful body. No one tried to handle the task alone. Each hunter held a specific position, applying only enough force to keep the snake under control while avoiding unnecessary struggle. After several tense minutes, the python was moved into a more open area where the flat ground allowed the group to manage it more safely. As the hunt came to an end, the tension gradually gave way to relief. The hunters did not celebrate with loud cheers. They simply looked at one another and nodded, quietly acknowledging that patience and teamwork had carried them through the challenge. The large python was then brought back to the camp, where everyone began preparing the meal. Some gathered firewood and lit the cooking fire. Others cleaned the hunting tools, while the elders sat nearby, recounting every track they had followed and every decision made throughout the hunt. As cooking smoke drifted through the camp, the aroma of roasted meat blended with the scent of dry firewood and filled the air. The meat was shared equally among the families, and no one was left behind. To the Hadzabe, the success of a hunt does not belong solely to the person who catches the prey. It belongs to the entire community. Young children sat beside the fire, listening intently to stories about tracking animals, staying calm under pressure, and showing respect for every living creature on the savannah. As evening settled over the camp, daily life gradually returned to normal. Some people continued repairing their bows and arrows. The women gathered more firewood, and the children played among the bushes near the camp. That day's python hunt had brought back more than just food. It also reaffirmed a lesson passed down through countless generations. In the wild, people survive not through recklessness, but through careful observation, unity, and a deep understanding of the land they call home. It is this very spirit that has enabled the Hadzabe to preserve their hunter-gatherer way of life on the Tanzanian savanna for thousands of years.
As dawn breaks over savannah, the Hadzabe men leave their camp carrying wooden bows and a handful of arrows. They walk in silence, studying the landscape and the footprints left in the soil to determine the direction of their prey. Before entering the forest, every bow and arrow is carefully prepared for the hunt. following techniques that have been passed down through generations. Unlike many hunters who focus on a single target, the Hadzabe are always ready to change their plans according to what nature presents. When they hear movement coming from the trees ahead, the entire group immediately changes direction. A few hunters quietly spread out to the sides, while the others patiently move forward to close the distance. Only when a monkey stops on a low branch is an arrow finally released. The prey quickly falls, and the hunting party gathers everything before continuing their journey. Leaving that area behind, the hunters continue across low shrubs and dry terrain. Before long, they discover a group of wild boars digging for roots and tubers. No one rushes forward. Everyone silently adjusts their position, using tall grass and tree trunks as cover while moving closer. Once they are within effective range, the first arrow is released, sending the entire herd into panic. One wild boar is successfully brought down, and the group quickly finishes their work before leaving the area. The hunt is still not over. On the way back, the constant calls of birds echo from the treetops, causing everyone to stop. One hunter slowly raises his bow, patiently waits for a bird to settle on a branch, and then releases a perfectly aimed arrow. For the Hadzabe, every animal, whether large or small, is valuable because what matters is not the size of the prey, but providing enough food for the entire community. From a distance, children run out to welcome the hunters returning to camp. The women quickly light the fire, prepare the meat, and divide it among everyone. No one asks who fired the first successful shot or who achieved the greatest accomplishment. As soon as the game arrives at the camp, all of the meat becomes shared property. Sharing happens naturally as an inseparable part of life within the community. For the Hadzabe, hunting skill is not measured only by the ability to use a bow and arrow, but also by patience and teamwork. Every member clearly understands their role throughout the journey. Some observe, others search for the best positions, while others stand ready to assist whenever needed. This strong coordination allows them to adapt to different situations without exchanging many words. Hunting trips also serve as an important way for younger generations to learn from their elders. They watch how experienced hunters move, choose the right moment to approach their prey, and remain calm under every circumstance. Each skill is passed down through hands-on experience rather than books, becoming an essential part of tribal life from one generation to the next. What makes the Hadzabe way of life truly remarkable is not only their ability to find food in the wild, but also their spirit of sharing. Today, one hunter may return with a monkey, and tomorrow someone else may bring back a wild boar. But in the end, every success is shared with the entire community. No one keeps more than they need because they understand that unity will always matter more than the achievements of any individual. Even today, the hunting expeditions of the Hadzabe continue to reflect a way of life that has endured for countless generations. From their simple bows and carefully prepared arrows to the way everyone shares the results of the hunt, everything demonstrates the deep bond between people, nature, and their own community. If you would like to discover more stories about hunting and the unique culture of the Hadzabe tribe, leave a comment and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you can join us on future journeys. When the night still blanketed the Tanzanian savannah in a cold blue darkness, the Hadzabe camp was already beginning to stir. The previous night's fire had dwindled to glowing embers, but the hunters quietly prepared for a special expedition. They carried bows and arrows, wooden spears, small knives, and their trusted hunting dogs. Few words were spoken, as everyone understood that they were not setting out in search of small game hidden among the bushes. Their target was a massive Cape buffalo that was often seen near the low grasslands, and if fortune favored them, they might even encounter an old rhinoceros wandering across the dry terrain near the edge of the open woodland. As the first light of dawn appeared over the horizon, the group left the camp. Their footsteps were so light that they barely disturbed the dry grass beneath them. The lead hunter crouched low, carefully examining every deep hoof print pressed into the soft earth, every patch of flattened grass, and every shrub that had recently been broken by a powerful charge. For the Hadzabe, hunting a Cape buffalo was an extraordinarily dangerous challenge. The animal's massive body, powerful curved horns, and unpredictable temperament made it one of the most formidable creatures on the savannah. A cornered buffalo could turn and charge without warning, making patience the hunter's greatest weapon. After hours of tracking, they finally spotted a herd of buffalo moving slowly across the open grassland. Instantly, the hunters lowered themselves and spread out behind thorny bushes to avoid being detected. The oldest hunter watched carefully for a long time, waiting until one aging buffalo drifted away from the herd and moved closer to a patch of low trees. Once it was within range, the first arrow was released, followed moments later by several more from different directions. Startled, the buffalo threw its head upward and surged forward, sending clouds of dust swirling into the air. The hunters immediately retreated behind large trees, staying clear of its charging path. During the tense minutes that followed, no one dared approach. They simply observed the animal's heavy movements from a safe distance, waiting for it to weaken as exhaustion gradually took its toll. To the Hadzabe, success was never about confronting their prey head-on, but about understanding its behavior and knowing the right moment to act. As the buffalo hunt came to an end, the group continued deeper into the dry country. By then, the sun stood high overhead, filling the air with heavy heat and an almost complete silence. Suddenly, one of the hunters walking ahead noticed enormous footprints clearly impressed into the hardened ground. Before long, they spotted an old rhinoceros standing beside a low shrub, calmly using its horn to sweep aside dirt and dry leaves. The entire group froze at once. A rhinoceros was never an animal to underestimate. Its enormous size, thick hide, and overwhelming strength meant that even the smallest mistake could end in disaster. The hunters did not approach the animal directly. Instead, they circled to remain downwind, kept a considerable distance, and moved only when the rhinoceros lowered its head to feed on leaves. Every step was carefully calculated. When the old rhino finally entered an open stretch of ground, a single arrow was released, and the hunters immediately withdrew behind large bushes. The animal spun around, drove its horn forcefully into ground, and charged away in a burst of agitation. It took a long time before the rhinoceros finally began to slow down. The hunters patiently followed from a safe distance, never allowing themselves to be drawn into a dangerous position. Only when they were certain that the animal no longer had the strength to mount a powerful counterattack did they cautiously move closer. That day's expedition became one of the greatest challenges the group had ever faced. From the fierce Cape buffalo to the immensely powerful old rhinoceros, every moment demanded calm judgment, years of experience, and absolute teamwork. By late afternoon, the hunters returned to the camp, where the entire community was waiting to welcome them home. Those who had remained behind quickly stepped forward to help divide the meat, gather firewood, and build a large fire at the center of the camp. As the first pieces of meat were placed over the glowing coals, their rich aroma spread through the air, washing away the exhaustion of a long day on the savannah. The elders sat beside the fire, recounting every dangerous moment of the expedition, while the children listened with complete attention, as though learning one of life's most important lessons about nature. The entire community gathered around the warm meal together. No one regarded the day's catch as merely food. To the Hadzabe, it represented the reward for courage, patience, and the wisdom passed down through countless generations. Across the vast wilderness, every hunt did more than ensure their survival. It strengthened the bonds of the tribe and kept their stories, skills, and enduring spirit of survival alive around the fire.